First Contact Superiority. High Admiral Zexthor of the Galactic Exploration Fleet stood motionless on the bridge of the Celestial Seeker, his four eyes fixed on the holographic display of the unremarkable yellow star and its planets. His crystalline exoskeleton reflected the soft blue light of the ship's ambient illumination as he contemplated the preliminary scans of the third planet. Another primitive world, he chittered to his science officer, Nalvac. Though the atmospheric composition is rather unusual. Oxygen levels at 21%. That can't be right. Nalvac's tendrils wavered as she double-checked the readings. Confirmed, Admiral. And the gravity readings are extreme, 9.8 meters per second squared. The atmospheric pressure would crush most sentient species. The Admiral's mandibles clicked in contemplation. The Archean Empire had mapped thousands of worlds across the galaxy, cataloging every form of life they encountered. As members of the most advanced civilization in known space, they'd prided themselves on their thorough understanding of what conditions could produce intelligent life. "Show me the dominant species," he commanded. The hologram shifted to display a bipedal creature with minimal protective covering, just a thin layer of epidermis and sparse hair. No natural weapons, no significant defensive adaptations. Yet, according to the scans, these beings had built cities, developed primitive spaceflight, and showed signs of rapid technological advancement. "Impossible," Zexthor declared. "No species could evolve intelligence in such hostile conditions. The radiation levels alone from their sun should have prevented complex life from developing." But as the Celestial Seeker moved closer to establish first contact, the impossible became undeniable. The creatures, humans, according to their intercepted communications, had not only survived but thrived in conditions that would kill most species in the galaxy within minutes. The Admiral's first mistake was sending a standard diplomatic party to the surface without enhanced environmental protection. 3 of the 5 delegates collapsed immediately under Earth's crushing gravity. The other 2 could barely move, their crystalline forms straining under the pressure. The humans, displaying unexpected courtesy, quickly transported the struggling delegates to a hastily prepared low-gravity chamber. What happened next would forever change the Archean Empire's understanding of the galaxy. "You're having trouble with our gravity?" asked Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's chief xenobiologist, genuine concern in her voice. "We can adjust the chamber to match your homeworld's conditions." "Homeworld conditions," wheezed Senior Delegate Krylash. "But this is nearly triple standard galactic gravity. How do you function? How do you think?" Dr. Chen's confused expression shifted to understanding. "Oh, you mean most intelligent life evolves on low-gravity worlds. That explains your physical structure. We assumed the crystalline form was a choice, not a necessity." The delegates watched in astonishment as Dr. Chen casually walked around the chamber, her muscles and bones effortlessly countering forces that would shatter most species in the galaxy. The humans moved with a grace that seemed to defy physics, their bodies naturally compensating for conditions the Archeans considered extreme. But it wasn't just their physical adaptation that shocked the delegates. As the first contact proceedings continued, they discovered that humans had evolved under constant pressure from their environment. Their planet regularly experienced catastrophic weather events, tectonic activity, and extreme temperature variations. Rather than being destroyed by these challenges, humanity had turned them into advantages. "You mean you intentionally build cities in regions prone to earthquakes?" Kraylash asked incredulously during the cultural exchange. "Of course," replied Dr. Chen. "We learned to construct buildings that can withstand the tremors. Each disaster taught us something new, made us more resilient. It's the same with everything. Storms helped us understand weather patterns. Volcanic eruptions taught us about Earth's core. Diseases pushed our medical knowledge forward." Admiral Zexthor, monitoring the exchange from orbit, felt his crystalline form vibrate with unease. The Archean Empire had achieved its dominance through technological superiority, but they had evolved on a world where survival was guaranteed. Their advances came from leisure and academic pursuit, not necessity. These humans, these Deathworlders, had forged their civilization in conditions that would devastate most species. Every advancement they made was born from the need to overcome some environmental challenge. They didn't just survive their harsh world. They mastered it. As the first day of contact drew to a close, the Admiral made an urgent transmission to the Arxian High Council. Emergency Protocol 7, he began, using a priority code reserved for civilization-changing discoveries. We have encountered a species that fundamentally challenges our understanding of evolutionary development. Humans are not merely survivors. They are warriors forged by their world's hostility, and they don't even realize how extraordinary they are. The Council's response was immediate. Explain. They think we're the advanced ones, Zexthor replied, his tone carrying a note of something rare in Arxian communication. Fear. They look at our technology with admiration, not understanding that every piece of it was developed in controlled, safe conditions. Meanwhile, they split atoms for power while their planet actively tries to kill them. They launched themselves into space using controlled explosions because their gravity made gentler methods impossible. He paused, allowing his next words to carry their full weight. And now they want to share their knowledge with us. They want to teach us how they've done these things. Council members, I don't think we're ready for what they might show us. The human delegation, unaware of the existential crisis they were causing in their visitors, continued their preparations for the next day's meetings. Dr. Chen reviewed her notes, excited about learning from these advanced aliens, never realizing that the Arxians were coming to a terrifying conclusion. They had not discovered a primitive species in need of guidance. They had found their successors. The Trial of Worlds. The news of humanity's existence spread through the galactic community like a shockwave. The Arxian Empire's report triggered an emergency session of the Galactic Council, a gathering unprecedented in its urgency. Representatives from 1,000 worlds converged on the neutral space station, Harmony Point, to address what many saw as a potential threat to galactic stability. High Counselor Vix of the Luminary Confederation stood before the assembled delegates, her bioluminescent form pulsing with concern. The humans must be tested. We cannot simply accept a species evolved from such extreme conditions into our community without understanding their true capabilities. The council chamber erupted in agreement. Species that had coexisted peacefully for millennia found themselves united in their uncertainty about these newcomers. Thus, the Trial of Worlds was proposed, a series of challenges designed to evaluate humanity's abilities across various environments. What the council didn't realize was that they had just played directly into humanity's greatest strength, their drive to prove themselves. When the human delegation received the invitation to participate in the trials, their response surprised everyone. Instead of sending military personnel or trained specialists, they organized a lottery. Every human should have the chance to represent Earth, they declared, much to the council's bewilderment. The first trial took place on Glacius Prime, a frozen world where temperatures rarely rose above -100 degrees Celsius. The council selected Mira, a maintenance worker from Mumbai, to compete against representatives from 3 other species adapted to extreme cold. As Mira stepped onto the frozen surface, the alien observers waited for signs of distress. Instead, they watched in amazement as she began constructing a shelter from packed snow. "It's just like winter camping back home," she explained through her comms. "Though I admit, it's a bit colder than the Himalayas." The other competitors, despite their natural adaptations to cold, struggled to match her ingenuity. While they relied on their biology, Mira demonstrated humanity's greatest weapon, their ability to engineer solutions to any environment. The second trial took place in the methane seas of Titan Beta. Here, Marcus Chen, a deep-sea welder from New Zealand, showcased humanity's mastery of hostile environments. While other species required complex life support systems, humans had centuries of experience working in pressurized environments. "Pressure's pressure," Marcus commented as he expertly maneuvered through the alien ocean. "Whether it's water or methane, the principles are the same. We've been dealing with this since we first started exploring our own oceans." But it was the third trial that truly shocked the galactic community. On the radiation-soaked plains of Nexus IV, where even the most heavily shielded species feared to tread, humanity revealed perhaps their most terrifying capability. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, an oncologist from Argentina, didn't just survive in the harsh environment. She thrived. Using her knowledge of radiation's effects on living tissue, she developed an impromptu treatment that allowed her to extend her exposure time well beyond what should have been possible. Cancer treatment has taught us a lot about radiation, she explained to the stunned observers. Every patient is different, every exposure unique. You learn to adapt, to find new approaches. This isn't so different from treating aggressive tumors. The council members watched in growing unease as humans consistently demonstrated not just survival, but mastery over environments that most species considered impossible to inhabit. More disturbing was their casual attitude toward conditions that other species viewed with terror. During a private session, High Counselor Vix confronted the human ambassador. Your people treat these deadly environments as if they were mere inconveniences. How can you be so comfortable with such danger? Ambassador Sarah Chen, who had been promoted since the first contact, smiled. With respect, Counselor, danger is relative. Our entire evolution has been a continuous trial of survival. Every human carries within them the legacy of countless ancestors who faced impossible odds and survived. She gestured to the holographic display of Earth. Our world has tried to kill us with ice ages, supervolcanoes, diseases, and natural disasters. We didn't just survive. We learned from each challenge. Every threat became a teacher, every obstacle an opportunity to grow stronger. The Council's reaction to the trial's results was mixed. Some saw humanity as a potential threat, a species too comfortable with conditions that should be feared. Others recognized the incredible potential of a race that could not only survive, but adapt to almost any environment. But it was the Arxian Admiral Zextor who perhaps understood the true significance. In his final report to his superiors, he wrote, "The trial of worlds has revealed something far more significant than humanity's physical capabilities. We designed these trials to test their limits, but instead, they showed us that humans don't accept limits. They don't see hostile environments as barriers. They see them as challenges to overcome." As the trials concluded, the galactic community found itself facing an uncomfortable truth. They had intended to test humanity, but instead, humanity had taught them a lesson. The very conditions they had assumed would prove humans inferior had instead demonstrated their extraordinary potential. The trial of worlds had backfired spectacularly. Instead of containing humanity's influence, it had announced their capabilities to the entire galaxy. And as news of their achievements spread, more and more species began to wonder, what else could these Deathworlders teach them? War games. The Shark and Dominion watched the trial of worlds with growing unease. While other species saw potential allies in humans, the Dominion saw only threat. As the galaxy's premier military power, they had maintained peace through superior force for millennia. Now, these newcomers threatened that balance. Supreme Commander Kovacs made his decision. "We will test their military capability directly," he announced to his war council, not through the council's controlled trials, but through real combat simulation. The invitation to participate in the Dominion's legendary war games reached Earth through diplomatic channels. The Galactic Council advised caution. The Sharkan were known for their ruthless efficiency in combat, their biotechnology surpassing even the Arxians in matters of warfare. Humanity's response: enthusiasm. "You mean we get to play laser tag with aliens?" Colonel Sarah Martinez, Earth's chosen representative, grinned during the mission briefing. "Sign me up." The war games would take place on Nexus VI, a neutral world designed specifically for military exercises. 300 of the Dominion's finest warriors would face off against a mere 30 humans, a handicap the Sharkan insisted upon to make it fair. What followed would revolutionize galactic military doctrine forever. The Dominion forces deployed in traditional formation, their bio-augmented bodies and advanced weaponry arranged in textbook-perfect lines. They expected a frontal assault. It was how wars had been fought in space for 10,000 years. Instead, they got chaos. Colonel Martinez had selected her team not from traditional military units, but from across Earth's special forces communities. Navy SEALs, Spetsnaz, Sayeret Makul, each brought their own unique approach to warfare. First rule of asymmetric warfare, Martins broadcasted on an open channel as the games began. If you're outnumbered, change the rules. The human team scattered into small groups, using terrain features the Sharkin had dismissed as tactically irrelevant. They employed guerrilla tactics, striking from unexpected angles, never engaging in direct confrontation. Kovacs watched in growing frustration as his force's superior numbers became a liability. The humans were turning his warriors' training against them, exploiting their rigid adherence to doctrine. Impossible, he muttered as another squad of his elite troops was marked as eliminated by a pair of humans using nothing but terrain advantage and coordinated timing. How are they anticipating our responses? The answer came from his tactical eye. They are not anticipating. They are adapting in real time to our actions. This revelation shook the Dominion's military leadership to its core. Their entire approach to warfare was based on perfect execution of pre-planned strategies. The concept of real-time tactical evolution was foreign to them. But the true shock came during the urban combat phase. The humans turned the mock city into a nightmare maze of traps and ambush points. They used techniques refined through centuries of urban warfare on Earth, turning every building, every street, into a potential death trap. They fight like they evolved for it. One Sharkin officer commented in horror as he watched his troops fall into yet another carefully orchestrated trap. The truth was even more terrifying. Humans hadn't evolved for warfare. They had invented it, refined it, turned it into both art and science. While other species approached combat as a necessity, humans had made it a field of study. Halfway through the exercise, Kovacs called for a pause. He had to understand their methodology. "How did you develop these tactics?" he asked Martinez during the break. Her response chilled him. "We learned from every war we've ever fought. Each conflict taught us something new. But more importantly, we learned from our mistakes. Every failure became a lesson, every defeat a blueprint for future victory." The second half of the war games proved even more revolutionary. The humans began incorporating Sharkin techniques into their own strategies, creating hybrid tactics on the fly. They were learning, adapting, evolving their approach in the middle of combat. By the end of the exercise, the 30 humans had achieved what the Dominion had declared mathematically impossible. They had eliminated over 80% of the Sharkin force while losing only 7 of their own. But it was what happened after the games that truly demonstrated humanity's unique approach to warfare. Instead of celebrating their victory, the human team immediately began sharing their insights with their defeated opponents. "War isn't about winning," Martins explained during the debriefing. "It's about surviving, about protecting what matters. The best victory is the one where both sides learn and grow stronger together." This philosophy stunned the Sharkin. Their entire civilization was built on the principle of victory through superior force. The idea that warfare could be a tool for mutual growth was revolutionary. In his final report to the Dominion Council, Supreme Commander Kovacs wrote, "The humans do not merely wage war. They study it, learn from it, teach through it. Their greatest weapon is not their adaptability or their tactics, but their willingness to learn and share knowledge, even with their opponents." The war games had set out to prove human military inferiority. Instead, they had revealed something far more significant, a species that viewed even combat as an opportunity for growth and collaboration. As news of the exercise results spread through the galaxy, many species began to reevaluate their understanding of warfare. The humans hadn't just displayed superior tactics. They had demonstrated a fundamentally different way of thinking about conflict itself. The galaxy was changing, and at its center stood humanity, not as conquerors, but as teachers, turning even the art of war into a lesson in cooperation and growth. The Plague Wars. The first signs of the Nexus Plague appeared on the Outer Rim colonies. Initially dismissed as a minor bacterial infection, it spread through the galactic community with terrifying speed. Species that had never known serious illness found themselves facing extinction within weeks. The Arxian High Council declared a galaxy-wide emergency. Their most advanced medical technology proved useless against a pathogen that seemed to evolve faster than they could study it. As panic spread, humanity's response caught everyone off guard. "You mean you want to study it?" High Counselor Vix asked incredulously, as Dr. Maya Patel, Earth's leading epidemiologist, set up her equipment in the quarantine zone. "Deliberately expose yourselves to it." "Of course," Dr. Patel replied, already collecting samples. "It's the only way to understand how it works. Besides, human immune systems are different." Different was an understatement. While other species' medical technology focused on preventing exposure to pathogens, humans had evolved alongside countless diseases. Their immune systems were battle-hardened veterans of an endless microscopic war. "It's fascinating," Dr. Patel explained to her alien colleagues. "This plague behaves similarly to several Earth-based viruses. We've been fighting things like this for our entire history." The galactic medical community watched in amazement as human researchers willingly exposed themselves to controlled doses of the plague. Their immune systems didn't just fight the infection. They adapted to it, learned from it, and developed defenses against it. "Your bodies," an Arxian medical officer observed, "they're treating this plague like it's just another challenge to overcome." "That's exactly what it is," Dr. Patel confirmed. "Human history is largely a story of our battle against disease. The Black Death, smallpox, influenza, COVID-19. Each epidemic taught us something new. We didn't just survive them. We learned from them." As the plague continued to spread, humanity's experience with pandemic response proved invaluable. While other species focused solely on finding a cure, humans understood the importance of containment, contact tracing, and public health measures. "You've done this before," Supreme Commander Kovacs realized as he watched human experts coordinate the galactic response. "Your species has actual protocols for this scenario." Ambassador Chen nodded grimly. "We've had plenty of practice. Every human civilization has faced disease outbreaks. We learned the hard way that fighting a pandemic requires more than just medical technology. It requires coordination, sacrifice, and most importantly, adaptation." The breakthrough came 3 months into the crisis. Dr. Patel's team discovered that human antibodies, modified with Arxian biotechnology, could be used to create a universal vaccine. The human immune system's aggressive response to the plague, combined with alien medical tech, provided the solution the galaxy desperately needed. But it was humanity's approach to distributing the cure that truly demonstrated their unique perspective on survival. "Every world gets it simultaneously," Ambassador Chen announced to the Council. "No priorities, no politics. Either we all survive, or none of us do." This declaration shocked species that had spent millennia competing for resources and influence. The concept of sacrificing potential advantage for universal survival was foreign to them. "Why?" asked High Counselor Vix. "You could demand anything in exchange for this cure. Your species could rule the galaxy." Ambassador Chen's response reflected humanity's hard-won wisdom. Because the next plague might start on Earth, the next threat might be something we can't handle alone. Survival isn't about being the strongest. It's about making sure everyone is strong enough to face the next challenge. As the cure was distributed, the galaxy witnessed something unprecedented. Human medical teams worked tirelessly alongside alien healthcare workers, teaching them not just about treatment, but about prevention, preparation, and the importance of unified response to biological threats. "Your species treats disease as both enemy and teacher," observed an Arxian scientist. "You learn from what tries to kill you." "We have to," Dr. Patel explained. On Earth, pathogens evolve constantly. Our survival depends on our ability to learn and adapt faster than they do. Every disease we faced has helped prepare us for the next one. The Plague Wars, as they came to be known, marked another turning point in galactic history. Species that had relied solely on technology for survival began to understand the value of biological resilience. The human approach to medicine, treating disease as a teacher rather than just an enemy, revolutionized galactic healthcare. In the aftermath, Dr. Patel established the Galactic Center for Disease Control and Prevention, combining human experience with alien technology to create a new approach to medical science. The plague taught us all something important, she noted in her inaugural address. In the face of disease, there are no species boundaries, no territorial lines. Either we survive together, or we fall apart. The galaxy had gained more than just a cure. It had gained a new understanding of survival itself. Humanity's battle-tested immune systems and centuries of experience fighting disease had shown them a different way forward. As one Sarkhan medical officer noted in his final report, the humans don't just fight disease, they learn from it, adapt to it, and use that knowledge to protect others. In doing so, they turned one of their greatest vulnerabilities into perhaps their most valuable strength. Unity through adversity. The void between galaxies was supposed to be empty. When the long-range sensors detected something massive moving through that darkness, the galaxy's finest minds struggled to explain it. But as the object drew closer, the truth became undeniable. Something was coming. Something ancient. Something hungry. The entity, as it came to be known, defied conventional physics. It consumed everything in its path. Matter, energy, even light itself. Initial calculations suggested it would reach the galaxy's outer rim within 6 months. The Galactic Council descended into chaos. Species that had existed for millions of years faced extinction. The Arxians' advanced technology proved useless against something that devoured energy itself. The Sarkhan's military might meant nothing against an enemy they couldn't fight conventionally. Then humanity stepped forward with a plan so audacious it seemed impossible. "We're going to talk to it," announced Dr. James Okoro, Earth's leading xenocommunication specialist. His declaration was met with stunned silence. Talk to it. High Counselor Vix's bioluminescence flickered in disbelief. It's consuming entire star systems. Everything that exists has a reason for existing, Dr. Okoro explained. Even if that reason is beyond our current understanding. We humans learned long ago that what appears hostile might simply be misunderstood. While the Council debated evacuation plans, humanity mobilized in a way that shocked their alien allies. Every human colony, every Earth nation, united behind a single purpose. Scientists who had once competed now collaborated. Ancient rivals shared resources and knowledge. How do you maintain such unity in crisis? Supreme Commander Kovacs asked Ambassador Chen as they watched humans from traditionally hostile nations working side by side. "We learned the hard way that some threats are bigger than our differences," she replied. Every time humanity faced extinction, world wars, climate crisis, pandemics, we survived by coming together. It's not just about survival. It's about proving that we deserve to survive. The human plan was as innovative as it was dangerous. Using a combination of Earth's experience with communication across seemingly impossible barriers and alien technology, they proposed to establish contact with the entity through gravitational waves, the one form of information that seemed to interact with it. Dr. Okoro led a team that included linguists, physicists, and even philosophers from every spacefaring species. "We're not just trying to communicate," he explained. "We're trying to understand a form of existence completely different from our own." The first attempts failed spectacularly. The entity continued its advance, unchanged. But humans, true to form, treated each failure as data, each setback as a lesson. "Think about it," Dr. Okoro urged his alien colleagues. We humans spent centuries learning to communicate with Earth creatures that shared our basic biology. This entity might not even perceive reality the way we do. We need to approach this from every possible angle. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source, a collaboration between human musicians and Arcsian physicists. They discovered that certain gravitational wave patterns created resonances similar to Earth's whale songs. The entity responded, slowing its advance for the first time. What followed was perhaps the most remarkable first contact in galactic history. The entity, they learned, wasn't consuming systems out of malice. It was searching for something. Something it had lost eons ago when galaxies were young. Using their combined knowledge of communication, physics, and empathy, the Galactic team managed to help the entity find what it sought, traces of its own kind in the space between galaxies. The destroyer of worlds turned out to be simply lost. As the entity changed course, heading toward its newly discovered kin, the galaxy was left to process what had happened. Humanity had turned a potential apocalypse into a lesson in understanding. "You didn't just save us," High Counselor Vix told Ambassador Chen during the celebration that followed. "You showed us a new way to face extinction-level threats." "That's what humans do," Chen replied. "We take impossible situations and find possibilities within them. But more importantly, we learned that the greatest achievements come when different perspectives unite behind a common goal." The crisis changed galactic civilization forever. Species that had maintained careful distance for millennia now worked together, sharing knowledge and resources. The human approach to problem solving, combining practical innovation with emotional intelligence, became a model for facing galactic challenges. In the years that followed, a new phrase entered the galactic lexicon: human thinking, meaning to approach a problem with both determination and empathy, to seek understanding before confrontation, to unite in the face of adversity. As Dr. Okoro noted in his final report, the greatest threat we faced wasn't the entity itself, but our own limitations in understanding it. By overcoming those limitations together, we didn't just survive. We evolved as a galactic community. The galaxy had learned its final lesson about humanity. These Deathworlders, these survivors, these adaptable and resilient beings, they weren't just capable of enduring the impossible. They could teach others to do the same. In the end, humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy wasn't their strength, their adaptability, or even their resilience. It was their fundamental belief that survival doesn't have to mean standing alone, that the greatest victories come when different species, different perspectives, and different approaches unite in the face of adversity. The Deathworlders had become the galaxy's teachers, showing that even in the darkest void between stars, understanding and unity could light the way forward.